Hi everyone. Thank you for coming to Sonia Mendoza's program, Maaliwalas Araw. My name is Amy. I'm happy to be hosting this session today and I'd like to share a little bit about myself. My name is Amy. I'm a director of Abundance Consulting, a training company in Singapore. We provide career development programs and coaching, assessment tools, resources to help people developers like yourself, and I have business presence in many parts of Asia. Guidance Consulting provide a range of services and programs to support individuals and organizations. The range of programs are career services, where we help people to be career ready, or in career education as well. In organizations, we provide OD consultations to HR training. And we also provide a range of certification programs to upskill individuals and professionals. You usually don't realize you're burnout until afterwards. For example, I like reading as a pastime, but I remember a time when I sat down to read and I couldn't get past a few sentences before my mind just turned off. That's when I realized something was really wrong. So, to have a change of habit or a change of interest is a first indication. It is also a hint of what's going on in your state of mind. So, have your energy levels been low for a while, or have you been feel disconnected from your passions and your motivations? Perhaps you have lost interest in things that used to excite you, or the desire to be amongst friends. These are signs and these are indication of the condition that's known as burnout. So this presentation covers what burnout is, what are the causes of burnout, and some tips for preventing it or maybe begin to recover from it. Let me share a little bit about myself first and why this topic is of, I think, a deep impact for me. I used to be an architect. I'm actually trained as an architect. But after the birth of my first child, I stopped work to be a stay home mom. And after 2 years of being a stay home mom, I felt a need to go back to the workplace. I felt a need to be um, impactful and to be a working mom again or to join the workforce. But I didn't want to join a full time employment. So I decided maybe being an entrepreneur would be something that I could consider. So, long and short of it, after a few months of search, I decided to run a bridal shop. So, I was a Singaporean, even though I'm living now in Australia. If you've been to Singapore, you're familiar with Orchard Road. So I actually bought a business, lock, stock, and barrel, along Orchard Road. So it's a lot of money invested into this business. And I ran it with a church friend who is a designer because I'm an architect. I have not drawn or designed a wedding gown in my life. But I enjoyed the process of planning a wedding. So I thought it was a fun, it's going to be an exciting journey for me. But after one year into this business, things started to take a toll upon me because I realized it's not that easy to run a bridal shop with high overheads in Singapore, especially along Orchard Road. You can imagine the rental along Orchard Road, which is the main shopping street in Singapore. And I was pregnant with my second child. So there was a lot of pressure from first have to be mindful of my pregnancy. I had to run a bridal shop, and I have a young child as well. So I had to farm out or outsource a lot of my responsibility, like raising my kid, to my mother or even my husband who was working. Weekends, I couldn't go to church. I couldn't attend a lot of social events because I am working. I'm running the shop over the weekend where there'd be more customers coming in. So through that period of time with a child finally coming and having to manage the shop at the same time, the pressure was huge and the stress was very high. And during the time, um, my business partner, who had been supposedly uh, being a shareholder and investors, had not held up her part of the bargain. So I've been bearing the financial burden of this business. and trying to bring in customers, being business owner for the first time, you can imagine the pressure, you can imagine the stress I was going through. And at the same time, my business partner was also acting in a very, very strange way, giving a lot more emotional stress for me. When later on she was diagnosed, or she was actually I realized that she was bipolar. So that created the kind of behavior changes that was impacting our relationship, was impacting the business, where I had to stop the partnership and bear the whole burden on myself to run a bridal shop. So as an architect with no business, experience running the business on the first time, running a business I'm not familiar with, I had to bear all the burden. I had to start looking for people who could carry on the business with me. And then after that, shortly after that, the SARS came. So with the SARS, just like now COVID, where all business are impacted in deep way, I was definitely impacted in bridal shop. No one's getting married. So I was really crying myself to sleep every night, worried about paying rent, worried about how do I make ends meet with this business, and then neglecting raising my child, my young baby. So all these act up, and it has really taken a mental toll on me. It has taken a toll on my marriage as well, where I had to make a decision on when I had to call it quit. Enough is enough. So through that three years, I think I was in the bridal business. I went into a roller coaster ride of excitement, then the pressure of running the business, and then the stress. And eventually, it has taken me physically, emotionally, to a point of almost breaking down. So it was, thank goodness or thank God that I decided I have to bring a stop. I had to pull myself out from a situation that is of no benefit to me personally, no benefit to my marriage and to my family. So that's a little bit of my journey of going through a stress, through running the business to the point of burnout, where I was really, I was not abusing myself, but in a way, it is indirectly I felt abused because I cannot look after myself after running the business. So that was my journey in going through and experiencing a phase of burnout, a phase of high level of stress, where I felt distance from my friends, I felt distance from my husband, I felt I couldn't do anything, or I could not even make an impact in what I want to do. I was lost because I'm not sure why am I in this business, why am I doing, and really asking why and why. So that's my story on the importance of understanding burnout and how do you pull yourself out of it. So let me carry on with today's topic on what is burnout. Burnout is a state of mind that comes with a long-term unresolved stress that will negatively affect your work and your life. So burnout can affect anyone at any time in your lives. And a recent study has shown that the average professional experiences burnout by the age of 32. And I smack right at the age because that was a time when I started my business. So you can see the quote here. Herbert Freudenberger, who is the psychologist who actually coined the term burnout. He defined burnout as a state of fatigue or frustration brought about by devotion to a cause, a way of life, or relationship that fail to produce an expected reward. While there are many similarities between burnout and stress, burnout usually takes place over a longer period of time and has a way of sneaking up on us. Nobody planned for a burnout, but we don't know that we have come into a phase where it tip over and that it is not just stress, this is a burnout. And it works away the meaning, the motivation parts of our life. With stress, adjustments and rest may be sufficient to get us back on track. Burnout, however, threat, threatens the existential purpose that produces the energy, the desire to overcome the stress. So in 2019, World Health Organization has announced an update to the definition of burnout in its international classification of disease. So now burnout is actually classified as a occupational phenomenon. It is not classified as a medical condition. So burnout, as described in the ICD-11, which is the 11th edition, is written as follows. Burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is characterized by three dimensions: feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's work, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. And it has reduced professional efficacy. So very clearly, there has signs, or these are closely related to work, and work is the main cause or the cause and contribution to the burnout. Sorry, the burnout phenomenon. Burnout can be costly because in a recent Gallup research, it has seen 24% increase in signs of burnout throughout COVID time, which is last year. And I mentioned the average professional experienced burnout by age 32, and 23% of employees reported feeling at work notice very often or always. That's a pretty high percentage of employees feeling that way at work time, almost always. So if you look at your employees or you look at your staff, 1/4 of them are feeling burnout right now. 44% of employees reported feeling burnout sometimes. So it is cyclical. It could be related to certain projects or certain deadlines where they felt a surge in the burnout condition. And World Economic Forum reports burned out because of the absentees of work, low productivity. It cost the global economy estimated at 255 billion pounds. So as a business owner, or if you're working within an organization as a HR professional, then there's something that is of concern. That how are we managing our staff? How are we helping our staff to manage stress so they will not deteriorate into a level of um, burnout? But what are the causes for burnout? There are many opinions on this, on the reasons that burnout is on a rise across the world. Mentioned just now, 24% few more has more burnout in 2020, but the main culprit is the work-centric culture, where employees manage now epic workload resulting in long hours of work. International Labour Office reports 1 in 5 workers around the world are working more than 48 hours a week. In Japan, a government white paper revealed that 22.7% of the companies surveyed had employees who clocked in more than 80 hours of overtime each month. Now, with our COVID work from home situation, the separation from work and life or family life is hard to maintain. And it probably increased the amount of time we spend at work. Our bosses are expecting us to be always have a handphone on or emails always available. We are always available to answer the email. Our customers expect us to respond 24/7 with our smartphone. So the pioneering psychologists have really identified the 6 risk factors for burnout that we should highlight, we should be aware of, and be careful to look out for signs. Number one of the first risk factors for burnout, mismatch in workload, where our employees are receiving, or we are receiving, tremendous amount of workload that we really was not paid to do or have been tasked to do. But we just, because of the reduction in business or restructuring in the organization, companies and and bosses are just loading more and more or expecting more and more from our staff. A mismatch in control. You have no longer have autonomy on what you can do or cannot do. You have no control of your own time. You have no control over perhaps maybe your not just your time, your resources as well. Everything's out of control. The lack of appropriate rewards, number three, where you put in a lot of effort or a lot of time doing something, but you do not receive the reciprocal reward for those times that you feel motivated or energized to do so. Number four, loss of sense of positive connection with others in the workplace. With us working from home, interacting with one another through the Zoom platform, it actually does take a lot of mental stress from some people on the workforce when they feel they have lost connection with one another and not able to feel they're working as a team. It is also one of the reason for the loss of positive connection. Then there is perceived lack of fairness, where someone gets maybe the choice job or a choice task, or someone gets benefited more or rewarded more than the others. So there's a perceived sense of fairness on what they're doing. Are they fairly being fairly treated? Finally, the conflict between values. Perhaps the values of when a person enters into this job, that there is alignment with the values of the position or alignment with the person. But with the changes in, I guess, in the outlook right now, that work has changed so much, relationship and also the the way work is being structured, the company is being structured, that the values were that was aligned perhaps has now conflicting. What we felt that we could actually draw certain boundaries, we no longer are able to draw those boundaries. So these are all the causes that the psychologist has actually identified. So if employees at any stage of employment cycle felt that they are given unfairly amount of work with no reciprocal work is no longer rewarding, and a gradual disconnect to the job roles set in, we began to really progressively become disillusioned when our team breaks down or organization structures breaks down. So we have to be mindful about this. And the situation can be compounded when we have no authority or autonomy to make a decision. So do any of these factors resonate with you? Let's have a look at this nice little drawing that has very clear and succinctly described the signs of burnout. Take a look at the different signs. There is an obvious physical manifestation of the burnout, such as headaches, muscle tension, or just the tension that you feel over your shoulder over a long period of time that refuses to go away. How about your sleep patterns? Are you getting a lot of interrupted sleep during the night? That when you wake up, you don't feel rested at all. How about becoming, you feel or you are sensing that you're actually becoming a lot more irritable recently? That you feel that the world has been pretty unfair to you. You just feel very overwhelmed by whatever's happening around you, and you feel that whatever you're doing, is unfulfilling. No one's appreciating you, and you're frustrated constantly. That every day is a Sunday blues. You just don't want to go to work. How about a sense of apathy? Or just simply over complaining about this every single thing that you picked up? Do you notice that you're losing a temper quite often at your colleagues, at your children, or your spouse, anyone? So these are simple signs, but these are very clear signs that you are showing and displaying signs of burnout. So we should watch out for these signs, but I actually have a series of questions that will actually give us a personal health check, that we reflect on those questions and think about your answers to those questions. Questions to ask if you're experiencing burnout, or if you know someone, or you can share these questions with someone to ask them, are they experiencing burnout? Do I know what is expected of me at work? Do I have the resources I need to do my job well? Do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? Do I receive recognition at work? Do my opinions at work seem to count? Does the mission of my company make me feel like my job is important to me? Do I have the opportunities to learn and grow at work? Do I use adaptive or maladaptive coping strategies to deal with my daily stresses? Remember, burnout is a gradual state that slowly devours you. So it is helpful to be aware that there are stages of burnout we need to look out for. And this is the first step to do an internal health check with these questions. But I'm going to explain to you the various stages on how we actually slowly might actually slip into the stage of burnout. There are 5 stages of burnout I'm going to share today. The honeymoon stage. Remember, I mentioned that when I first bought the bridal business, it was interesting, it was fun, I was excited about it. It was we feel energized when we're given a new job or given a new task within a company. That there is a lot of adrenaline coming through, surging us that we can't wait to get down to just tackle the problem or tackle the job. So this is a good stage because the adrenaline, sometimes it could be a stress induced adrenaline actually gives us the drive, gives us the motivation to do well in. So at this stage, you get some simple this common symptoms, like for example the compulsion to prove because now you got a new job, I want to show it to everyone, I can do this, or that actually leads into high productivity because you're so energized, you're so motivated to do it. You're looking out for job satisfaction. And actually seeking job satisfaction can be a stressor as well because we are seeking to prove, we're seeking for approval, for recognition for our work. That with these desire, this inner drive that created by us, that leads us to have actually perform very well. If we're able to maintain ourselves at this stage, to have a positive strategies, coping strategies, to then we can actually maintain in this honeymoon phase for a long period of time, a sustained period of time. That actually becomes we actually are productive. We are actually performing well. We are doing well at work. So the theory is that if we create good coping strategies at this stage, we can continue in the honeymoon phase indefinitely, in spite of all these common symptoms, which is fine. But if you find your optimism waning and perhaps notice common stress symptoms affecting you physically, mentally, emotionally, symptoms such as now you sense not just only you had in the past, first phase you had excitement, compulsion, but now you're feeling anxiety. Now you feel that you are getting maybe tired or you are getting becoming very indecisive because of this anxiety that's coming in, that this is actually an onset of stress because we realize that some days are actually more difficult than others to bear, that we get heart palpitations, we have lower productivity because of the anxiousness of not able to cope with the situation. So that's stage 2 of the burnout, or gradually entering the burnout. Phase 3, chronic stress. This is where the symptoms have intensified for you. And you see a significant change in your stress level with more intense symptoms. Your irritability level has become aggressive. that you're snapping at everyone. You're snapping at your kids for every little mistake they make, or you snap, or you just have a temper with someone that who has just made us mild mistakes. But if you had been in a better position or better place, that you could have just brushed it off. So now you have gone into from a irritable anxiety to denial of problems, whether at workplace or home, from a point of forgetfulness, of from a point of anxiety that you are now rejecting. You're not acknowledging that there is a problem. You are actually spinning out of control with a lot of things, and you begin to miss deadlines. You begin to miss your targets, and with these situation or with these signs that you are displaying through workplace, that cause not only a sense of, I would say, emotional reaction to the workplace, you have also decided to withdraw. So you are avoiding to the point of now denial, and you just do not want to actually make it known, reveal it to your friends. You don't want to be seen that in the first honeymoon stage where you want to prove yourself that, oh, I am actually not making it. You are realizing that you're not at a good place. And when you are in that position, you have no desire to present yourself to others. So unconsciously, you're socially distancing from your friends or even family members. And you're increasingly not taking care of yourself to the point of perhaps even abusing yourself. So these are the common symptoms that a person who is in chronic stress are, are displaying in their lives. Stage 4 or phase 4 is the burnout phase, where the symptoms have become critical. So continuing as normal is no longer possible at this stage. It has become increasingly difficult to cope. Your symptoms may even lead to detrimental consequences if you do not curb or they are not managed somewhat. The symptoms are behavioral changes. You have chronic headaches constantly every day, for long duration of time, that somehow it doesn't go away with medication. You're also displaying or showing signs of stomach or bowel problems. You're gonna have complete neglect of your personal needs. That with these you are gradually or have actually started to escape, to move away. I refuse to be in that space, or I don't want to be with anyone at this stage. That you might have gone into a swing into an obsession with one element or one component of your work, that becomes an unhealthy obsession of one matter, that you wanted to address this issue over and over again. So now your physical symptoms have intensified or increased, and that with that physiological impact and manifestations, you are now also putting a lot of self-doubt. The self-concept has gone down and has lowered the point. You are now have a heightened self-doubt over yourself. So that's stage 4. And what happened at stage 5? That now it is embedded. The symptoms, it is part of who you are. It is an habitual burnout. From this, you are now has probably clinically could be in a state of depression. When you are now have been become so much part of your life, you accepted it, you might not want to get out of it. You are now experiencing this ongoing situation. It becomes habit, it becomes who you are, and you want everyone to know about this. So this is actually in a sense an unhealthy outlook. It is unhealthy emotionally, it is unhealthy for relationship as well. So these are the 5 stages of the burnout that I have just explained it very briefly. Some psychologists or studies actually have even broken down into more stages. But I think for today's presentation is adequate to show you these symptoms, or at least be aware of the symptoms to know and do a health check on ourselves. So I'm going to use a case study to illustrate burnout, to illustrate management of burnout. I'm going to use a tale of two nurses. So there are a pair of best friends who share a lifelong dream of becoming nurses and began their nursing journey in different hospitals. So this is Miss C. Miss C started work very excited in the hospital. In the first year, while working, Miss C's hospital had budget cuts and reduced staffing. So you can imagine, with the reduced staffing, the patient load went up from a daily 4 patients to 7 patients. So as a first young nurse who just entered the first job, she's struggling to keep up with the increasing workload. And she found herself not able to spend as much time as she wanted with her family, with her friends, and Missy soon began working a few hours beyond her usual 12 hours shift and often worked continuously for 6 or 7 days in a row. So it is, it is for certain she'll be tired, and she is tired all the time and frequently found it difficult to focus with exhaustion, especially near the end of a shift. So her personal life has been affected because she has no time for friends. She can't get in touch, or she couldn't find time to contact her family, and seems to have even less time for her friends. So Miss C's good friend, Miss M, contacted Miss C and found out her dissatisfaction at work. So Miss M was sympathetic with her situation and asked, so maybe you want to consider moving to a different hospital and into this medical intensive care unit, because the intensive care unit has lower patient load but has a lot of professional challenge. So Missy was really enticed by this suggestion, said, oh, this is a great idea. And she applied for the transfer and she was successful into this new job, in this new role. So Miss C in this new department, the medical ICU, renewed interest in her career, and she has the energy during orientation and training in the ICU. So she enjoyed the technical challenge, this complex patient care, and she's really looking forward to work compared to the previous first assignment. However, after she has fully oriented to the unit, her patient load increased. Again, she found herself working long hours, working overtime. She went home every day with a headache, with a backache, and she never felt fully rested. She experienced also extreme mood swings. She began to withdraw her from her family and friends and found herself frequently overeating to de stress. And she also began to have a glass of wine or glass or two of wine every night just to cope with the stress she's facing. The last straw for Miss C was a medication error she made. There is no substantial harm to the patient, but the patient's physician yelled at Miss C and several other nurses in the unit. As a result, Miss C felt like a failure professionally in her job, and she questioned her decision to become a nurse. So she distanced herself even further from her colleagues, her family, and her friends. One day, Miss M gave Missy a surprise visit and was so shocked to see Missy had dark circles under her eyes. She was overweight. She lacked the usual passion for life. And when Miss M heard about Missy's work schedule and patient load, she became angry at the situation. She told Missy, you gotta take better care of yourself and become an advocate for change at her hospital. Miss M explained that not all hospitals are the same. She has, in her work environment, is a very positive, is a very supportive work environment. In her unit, the nurses get a weekly get together so they can talk about the challenging patients and how they cope with them or with the loss of a patient. The HR department sends them flyers to give them education and give them support through management or stress management programs. The supervisors rearrange schedules so the nurses can attend those sessions or those learning to able to cope with the stress. So even though there are heavy workloads within Miss M's unit, the head nurse works with the staff so that they can have a say in the shifts. They can have some contribution to the number of hours they want to work in a week. So that head nurse also anticipates the needs and requests for the per diem nurse to come and help with the load. So there was a lot of support, unlike the unit Miss C was in. So Miss C was really surprised at the difference between her hospital and Miss M's hospital, but she was doubtful that she could change how her hospital functioned. So Miss M acknowledged it's difficult, yes, to change the organization, but she encouraged Miss C to talk with the other nurses to just come together and approach the administration to request for change and to emphasize the detrimental effect of heavy workload, patient load to patient outcome and the quality of care. Ms. M also noted that what is also really important, aside from working towards a change in the hospital, that Ms. C must make changes in her personal lifestyle to help her better manage the stress and to avoid burning out completely. So Ms. M has advised Ms. C on the importance of finding healthier way to cope with stress, evaluate her work-life satisfaction, and then seek support from her friends, seek support from her family, be smarter in working, and also do other non-work activities just to help her to manage her, her emotional stress at work. And lastly, Ms. M has also reminded Ms. C on how excited both of them had been when they wanted to become a nurse, to remind her why they want to become a nurse. So this is the case study of a tale of two nurses on how one has experienced burnout and one has managed with many supporting systems within workplace and herself to able to cope with the same kind of problem, I guess, or work challenges. So, what are the lessons from these two nurses? So, from the case study, we can pick up a few key points. There are pre-existing personal risk factors that allows one person to be inclined to become stressed and later on subsequently burn out. Firstly, Miss C was young and early in her career, so that's a pre-existing uh, risk factors for her. She's not mature enough to navigate the organizational practice that has not been fair to her, that has just given her too much work. She doesn't know what she should do to reduce the extra workload. She's single, so therefore she's been taken advantage by the administration to take out the extra workload because she's available with no family to look after. She's also highly educated, so therefore she might have an inherent urge to prove herself and have high optimism in her capability. Secondly, notice when she changed to a medical ICU, the change of the work setting is a frequent response when we face a difficulty that this is not good, I'm going to change to a different job, I'm going to change department. But different environments can have the same inherent stressor. For example, in a nursing environment, work overload brought on by inadequate staffing is a common source of stress and burnout. So by changing hospital, changing departments, not going to do that, not going to do anything because it is still the same work settings. and therefore the potential for burnout will continue if they are not aware or you are not aware of it. Relationships within work setting is also important. Notice that Miss C, the physicians who yelled at Miss C for making an error, that it demoralizes her to a point that she felt she questioned her professional role. She questioned her choice to be a nurse. And when there is no good nurse and physician collaboration within the department, the nurses are felt left alone to defend for themselves with no support compared to Miss M's hospital where there is a spirit of team work, everyone comes together, we all solve the problem together. Actually the relationship there was, it may not able to change certain, I guess, policy within the company or the organization, but it certainly helps to know that there's someone standing next to you. And then finally, what can be changed? So remember that Ms. C has some doubt if she can change any of the administrative policy or procedures within the organization. So some things that it is difficult to change, we have to choose our battles. What can we change? So individuals have to make decision on what can they do, what can be changed, and choose the ones that is easier to tackle and therefore that could have a good impact or bring a positive change to the situation. What else needs to be changed? Missy has to change her lifestyle. She has to pay attention on how she manage and how she cope with the stress. She has to pay attention to um, self-care, time management, or perhaps maintaining a strong relationship. Those are the key elements to maintain a good well-being within her workplace. So things that can be changed will be things that she can bring impact for over herself and not over the organization. So these are the the lessons that we can pick up through this case study from these two nurses. If you recognize yourself or someone you know in the above case studies, or perhaps in the accompanying symptoms, what do we need to do to pull ourselves out from the condition of stress or towards the onset of burnout? I will share a process to help us reset. So, what is reset? It's an act of setting, adjusting, reverting, or fixing something in a new or different way. So that's reset. And during this burnout, if you're in burnout, let's press the reset button. I'm going to illustrate the process with an old computer command that you might be familiar with, the three finger salute. That's what sometimes it's called. Control, alternate, delete. So this is generally used to interrupt or facilitate interrupting a function within a computer. In the earlier versions of Windows or OS2, the combination reboots the computer. Just restart the computer. Let's start afresh. Starting from Windows 95, this combination, alternate control delete, invokes the task manager to help end or kill a frozen application. I'm using a Mac, so my combination will be Option Command Escape to do so. But I'm going to use these three buttons and to help us to actually effect change and to effect reset in our lives. Burnout makes us feel powerless. You find that you're losing control over what happened that brought you to this point of burnout. But we need to know that we do have the power to bring back some control and to begin to recharge. Remember the case study I mentioned earlier? So if you want to bring back some controls, what were the areas that Miss C have control over? What can she control? She could control her personal choices, such as Her diet, she could actually control by putting in some mini breaks between work. She could exercise. She can choose to keep close relationship with friends so that she can confide the struggles with. So these are areas. Identify what you can control during burnout. Identify what you cannot control. What are the areas that Missy have no control over? Perhaps it was the administrative processes or procedure policy that has been set that she cannot control. These are the structure within the organization. She has no control on nursing work requires such work settings, patient load or work shift. There'll be cycles of heavier workload, patient load at times, the scheduling, that these she might not have obvious control over. So what is obvious for us is that there are controls that can that's happening internally to ourselves, to our body, to our mind. So we can control things that's happening internally and physically done to us. Our mindset, we can choose to take better care of ourselves. We usually have no control over the external factors. For example, the circumstantial factors. Wherever work that leads to a point to become more stressful, we sometimes have no control over them. Deadlines, we have no control on when certain jobs need to be completed, or if there are additional workload, maybe as an employee, we are not in a position to turn them down. If the work environment is toxic or maybe have driven you to a point of burnout with no alternative, but you still do have a control, have a choice and a control of either removing yourself from the environment. So these are areas that you can't and identify them, list them down on what you can control and what you cannot control. Thirdly, learn to set boundaries. We all have limited resources. We have limited time. We have limited energy. We all have the same energy, the same level of hours in our life. We can't do everything. We're not superheroes. Even Superman has limitation as well. So we need to set limits on the expectation on us so that we can manage the stress while recovering from a burnout. So learn to say no to things. Learn to set boundaries on things that's important to you. Before you agree to more commitments or invitations to projects or to new work, push the pause button. Take a moment to think through and walk through what's required of you. Ask yourself if you really have the time or energy to embark on this new direction or new venture. Be honest and think whether doing it offers values to you. You may use this graph here as an example to evaluate how to set boundaries around things that are important to you. This is the way of setting boundaries. For example, if you value creative flow, then what you need is to have minimum calls and disruption during the day so that your flow, your creativity can be continuous, can be sustained. So, in order to do that, you have to schedule only critical meetings. If you valued quality time, then you want to have a one-to-one connection with people. And you do not want to have technology be in a way you want to set aside specific time, schedule it in so that you can have a weekly update for you to meet that needs. Or if you value focus and depth, then think about this job or this invitation, whether it fulfills the other need of a few yes kind of projects to be on because that actually stretches too much of your energy and your focus, then you have to say no to many things. If those things does not allow you to have focus and to have deep analysis, deep work into one task, if your well-being is important to you, then learn to say no to work on weekends so that you can have a restful time, you can have an off time for yourself. So this is how you set boundaries by being clear on what's important to you and then knowing to say know when to say no to those items or to those invitations. So that was the control button. Dealing with burnout is not always straightforward. There are changes that you hope to effect in your workplace, but there are too many hoops that you have to jump through, and those efforts may actually push you deeper into the burnout phase. But this should not hold you down. A little exploration may actually reveal a new path for you. So, what are the alternatives? Exploration requires you to be bold, to be creative. And of course, if you are in phase 3 and 4 of the burnout, then maybe you're not in the right frame of mind to be creative. This activity of exploration actually can be carried out with your co-workers or with your team so that you are relying on everyone else to brainstorm on alternative solutions and not just but all by yourself. Not forgetting burnout is actually a work-related situation. Or you may seek out therapist or coach to explore what are the possible coping methods, coping strategies. If the work setting is causing the burnout to set in, then do you know where you really want to be in? Where do you want to move yourself? Where is the happy place for you? In the case study, Miss M reminded Miss C on why and how they always wanted to be a nurse. So you may have lost your passion for a career you once loved, and now you're angry, you are resentful when you go to work. List down the things that brings you joy. For example, joy of being connected with people. Maybe your passion when to choose this career was to serve people. Then you need to understand and list down those things that those are important things, very much like the boundary example I've shared earlier. Things that bring you joy. Bring these are list down the activities, list down the task, list down the environment that will actually make you happy. Make time for those activities, make space for those environments to happen, or put yourself in those environments so that you can counteract the feelings of anger or irritation. So it is important for you to feel more like yourself, to really find yourself again in this moment of stress in the phase of burnout. Finally, delete button. When we clean house for the new year, for the festivities, we have to decide what stays and what goes. We have to decide what items are valuable and of use or essential, and what are the items that is no longer important or no longer of value for us that has to go. So for me, I have mild OCD, so I like to keep the house clean, and I get stressed out when I see a lot of things lying around the house. For me, I need to keep the house clutter free, so I enjoy throwing things out, just to make space for myself or for the home. And for if in the house where I see a lot of items that's lying around that actually will be laid by my family members, it actually grates on me, it irritated me. So likewise, in your little house, that's yourself, your physical house, and in the workplace, that is also your work house, what are the things that you need to let go? What are the things that you need to delete, to clean out, to throw away? Things that are no longer of value or benefit for you, or possibly even toxic for you. Then you have to take those things away and remove those things because they could be or they are the source of your stress. It could be also your eating habits or your drinking habits that have to go. Could be your perspective or your pessimism that has to remove to actually put a stop to it. So whichever or identify and be honest on those uh, unhealthy, negative things that is not of benefit to you that you need to have to remove. Get to say no. Learn to say no to things that are not aligned with who you are, aligned with your values, aligned with your boundaries, aligned with your intention. You cannot, we have to stop being a sponge because if we're just absorbing everything that's been thrown to us, we're taking too much. And that sometimes we will come to a breaking point. So these are the three buttons to actually to help us to reset, to get ourselves out and also slowly recover from the burnout phase. So let me recap on what we have talked about today. Burnout is an occupational phenomenon. So the solutions are usually found in a work setting. Recognize the symptoms of burnout, the intensity level, so that you know what state you're at. The level of intensity should alert you to the level of urgency of measurements and management you need to put in place for yourself. Identify the stressor that have set you down this downward spiral. The clearer you are on those stressors, the trigger points, the more targeted you would be on your actions. So if we wish to reset our life to the honeymoon phase of the burnout or stress level, when stress level is a positive force, then we have to use this coaching questions to reflect what can you control in your current situation and what are the alternatives for you in order to move yourself out from the stress or high stress environment or the situation. Then what do you need to delete? So these are the steps, very simple steps of control, alternate, delete, to help us get ourselves ready to recover from burnout. But more importantly, is to reach out to a trusted friend, a mentor, or family members whom you can trust. It is difficult to manage burnout on your own strength by yourself. Seek out your support system that will hold you above the raging water. If necessary, consult a professional coach or a counselor or therapist who can help you explore the best coping strategies for your situation. I hope the above sharing is of benefit for you and you have picked up some good tips in helping managing your burnt out. If you wish to have more information, do connect with me through email or through LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you, or I could help to point you to someone within your city or within your vicinity who can actually support you in your journey. So thank you for being with me and listen to my sharing today. I hope I have benefited you in your journey and you can have some handles to manage burnout and stress in your life. Thank you and goodbye.